The Fed can't make $39 trillion disappear. No button does that. No vote, no policy, no emergency meeting behind closed doors. That number is real, it's enormous, and it isn't going anywhere. But here's what the Fed can do, and what it may already be doing right now while you're watching this. It can make your dollars disappear. Not all at once. Not in a way you'd notice on any single day. Slowly, quietly, dollar by dollar, until the money you worked years to save buys a little less every month. And that's the part nobody wants to say out loud, so I'll say it for them. They're not canceling the debt, they're changing who pays it. Think about that for a second, because it's the whole story. When a politician or a central banker stands at a podium and talks about solving the debt crisis, your brain hears relief. You hear someone fixing a problem so you don't have to. But a debt doesn't vanish because someone gave a speech. Somebody, somewhere, always pays it. The only real question, the question this entire video is about, is whether that somebody is going to be the government, or whether it's going to be you. If you've ever felt like you're working harder every year, and somehow falling further behind, this video is going to explain exactly why. Stick with me, because by the end you'll see the machine clearly. And if you want more breakdowns like this one, take 1 second right now and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who need to hear it. Now let's talk about the false promise. Canceling America's debt crisis is one of the most comforting phrases in modern finance, and it should make you nervous for exactly that reason. Comfort is how you get people to stop asking questions. Here's the question they don't want you asking. When Washington says relief, relief for whom? It's because relief for the government and relief for you are not the same thing. They're often opposites. The government's problem is simple. It owes a mountain of money, and every year it has to pay interest on that mountain. When you hear we're going to ease the debt burden, what that can quietly mean is, we're going to make each dollar of that debt smaller, easier, lighter for us to carry. But a dollar is a dollar. If the government's dollar of debt gets lighter, your dollar of savings gets lighter too. They're the same dollar. You cannot shrink one without shrinking the other. That's not a conspiracy theory, it's just arithmetic. The relief flows uphill. The cost flows downhill. And down at the bottom of that hill is your paycheck, your savings account, your grocery budget, and your retirement. So when the announcements sound generous, remember the guiding rule of this whole conversation. They're not canceling the debt, they're changing who pays it. Which brings us to the trick at the center of all of this. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Call it the scoreboard trick. Imagine you're watching a game. Your team is losing badly. Then instead of changing the players or the strategy, someone walks onto the field and quietly changes the scoreboard. Suddenly the numbers look better. Nothing on the field changed. The team is still losing. But the scoreboard says otherwise. And if you only glance at the scoreboard, you'd think things were fine. That is what can happen with inflation. Inflation is the scoreboard for the cost of living. It's supposed to tell you, honestly, how much harder it's getting to afford your life. But inflation isn't a fact of nature. It's a measurement, and measurements can be adjusted. What gets included, what gets weighted more or less. How substitutions get counted when you trade steak for chicken because steak got too expensive. All of that is a choice. And every one of those choices can make the official number look calmer than your real life feels. You already know this in your gut. You've felt it. Quote, "The official report says inflation is cooling, things are stabilizing, the worst is behind us." Then you walk into the grocery store and the same cart that cost $100 now costs $140. Your rent went up again. Your car insurance jumped for no reason anyone will explain. Your health insurance premium climbed. Gas isn't where it used to be. The repair on your car costs more than it should have. That gap, the gap between what the scoreboard says and what your bank account feels, that gap is not in your head. That is the trick working exactly as designed. And here's why it matters for the debt. If the scoreboard says inflation is low, the government can keep the cost of its debt low too, even while your real cost of living keeps climbing. The number on the screen protects them. It does not protect you. So let's get to the heart of it. How a debt gets canceled without anyone ever using the word canceled. Follow this slowly, because it's simple, and the people who benefit from it would rather you found it complicated. The government owes its debt in dollars. Not in gold, not in property, not in anything with fixed real value, in dollars. And here's the strange power buried in that fact. The same system that owes the dollars also heavily influences what a dollar is worth. Imagine you owe a friend $100, and you also had the ability to slowly make every dollar worth less. A year later, you hand him $100. Technically, you paid him back in full. The receipt says the debt is settled. But that $100 now buys what 70 used to buy. You paid him back with paper that lost a third of its life. He got numbers. You got relief. Nobody canceled anything, and yet the debt got lighter for you and heavier for him. Now scale that up to 39 trillion. If dollars slowly lose purchasing power, the government's debt becomes easier to repay in real terms, easier in terms of what those dollars can actually buy. The mountain doesn't get smaller. The dollars get smaller, so the mountain just weighs less. But that lost weight didn't evaporate. It can't. It had to go somewhere, and it went on to everyone holding, earning, or saving those same dollars. Here's a real-life example, and notice it's not about anyone rich. Picture someone who did everything right. They spent years putting $20,000 into a savings account. They were careful. They were responsible. They resisted the temptation to spend it. 5 or 6 years go by. The account still says 20,000, maybe a bit more with the tiny interest the bank pays. The number never dropped. But the groceries that account could have bought, the rent it could have covered, the car repair it could have absorbed, all of that shrank. The number stood still while the value quietly walked out the door. Nobody robbed that person. No alarm went off. There was no headline. The money was canceled in slow motion, and the exact amount that left their savings is the same kind of weight that came off the government's debt. That's the machine. That's the whole machine. They're not canceling the debt, they're changing who pays it, and the person who pays it is the one who saved. If that makes you a little angry, good. Hold on to that because you're seeing it clearly now. And if this is landing for you, drop a comment below, even one word, even just saving, and hit the like button. It tells the algorithm to put this in front of other people, getting quietly squeezed. And that's the only way videos like this spread. Now let's draw the map, because in this system there are winners and losers. And you deserve to know which side of the line you're standing on. Start with the winners. The biggest winner is the government itself, the largest debtor on earth, and the entity with the most to gain when dollars soften. After that, large borrowers in general. Anyone who owes huge sums of money at a fixed rate suddenly finds that money easier to pay back with cheaper dollars. Asset owners win. People who already own things that reprice, like real estate, businesses, broad ownership of productive companies. When dollars weaken, the price tags on those assets tend to climb, and the owners stay ahead. Institutions positioned close to cheap money win, because they get access to it first, before its value fully erodes. Notice the pattern. The winners are the people who owe money or own things. Now the losers, and read yourself honestly into this list. Savers lose, the careful ones, the disciplined ones, the people who kept cash because they were told that was responsible. Retirees lose, especially anyone on a fixed income that does not climb as fast as the real cost of living. Wage earners lose whenever their paycheck rises slower than their grocery bill, and for millions of people, it does. First-time homebuyers lose, watching the price of a normal house float further away every single year while they try to save the down payment with money that's shrinking. Renters lose as the cost of a roof keeps climbing. Anyone holding too much cash loses. Anyone whose income simply does not adjust with inflation loses. And here is the part that should make your jaw tighten. The cruelest line on the entire map. The people who played by the rules may be punished the hardest. The saver, the careful one. The person who avoided debt, kept cash on hand, lived within their means, and trusted the system to keep their money safe. That person did everything they were told to do, and in this machine, that's exactly the profile that quietly absorbs the cost. Meanwhile, the person who borrowed aggressively, who loaded up on assets, who owed instead of saved, can come out ahead. That's not a moral system rewarding good behavior. It's a mechanical one, and it does not care that you were responsible. So let's talk about the anger, because if you've felt it, you are not crazy, and you are not alone. There is a special kind of frustration that comes from being told you're fine, while you can feel yourself sinking. You hear the reports. The economy is strong. Inflation is under control. Things are normalizing. And then you live your actual month. The grocery bill that keeps creeping up. the rent increase that arrives like clockwork, the insurance premium that jumps with no explanation, the healthcare cost that quietly eats another piece of the paycheck. Here's the truth that cuts through all of it. People don't live inside inflation models. They live inside monthly bills. Nobody has ever felt reassured by a statistic while staring at a receipt. An academic definition of inflation has never once paid a light bill. And that's the disconnect that breeds the distrust, the feeling, deep down, that the definitions get adjusted whenever reality becomes politically inconvenient. That when the truth is uncomfortable for the people in charge, it's the measurement that changes, not the policy. You're not angry because you don't understand economics. You're angry because you understand your own life, and you can tell when the official story doesn't match it. That instinct is not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. But here's something the people running this machine can't fully control, and it's important, because it's the crack in the whole plan. It's the bond market. The Fed has real influence over short-term interest rates. But long-term rates, the ones that shape mortgages, car loans, the cost of the government refinancing its own debt, those are set by investors. Real people and institutions deciding how much return they need before they'll lend their money out for 10 or 30 years. And those investors are not stupid. If they start to believe inflation is being understated, hidden, or simply tolerated, they don't just shrug. They demand to be paid for that risk. They demand higher yields to compensate for dollars they expect to weaken. And when they demand higher yields, that pressure doesn't stay in some distant trading room. It lands directly on you. It shows up as a more expensive mortgage, as pricier car loans, as higher borrowing costs on everything. The very trick meant to quietly ease the debt can provoke the bond market into making the cost of living even harder for regular people. The scoreboard can be adjusted. The players in the market cannot be fooled forever. So what does all of this mean for you, practically? I'm not here to give you personalized financial advice, and you should be skeptical of anyone on the internet who does. But you can ask yourself better questions, and better questions are how you stop being the person who pays by accident. Ask, is my income actually adjusting with the real cost of living, or just standing still while prices move? Ask, am I holding more cash than I truly need? Cash that's slowly being thinned out? Ask, do I own anything that can reprice when dollars weaken, or is everything I have denominated in a currency that's losing weight? Ask, is my debt fixed rate or variable rate? Because in this environment, that distinction matters enormously. And ask the hardest one, am I trusting official inflation numbers to protect my retirement, when those numbers may be measuring a different life than the one I'm living? These are the areas thoughtful people research: real assets, inflation-protected securities, diversified investments, the dynamics of fixed-rate debt, sensible cash management, and growing income that keeps pace with prices. Don't take that as a recommendation. Take it as a list of things to go learn about, and then talk to a qualified professional who knows your actual situation. The goal isn't fear. The goal is to stop being passive, to stop being the default person the cost rolls downhill onto. Because here is the final truth, and I need you to really sit with it. A debt crisis never simply vanishes. It is one of the most stubborn facts in all of economics. $39 trillion does not dissolve because of a clever speech or a new way of measuring prices. That debt gets paid. It always gets paid. The only question, the only one that has ever mattered, is who pays it, and how visibly. It can be paid directly, out in the open, through hard and honest choices. Or it can be paid in the dark, hidden inside inflation, smuggled into your cost of living, charged silently to every dollar you ever earned and saved. They're not canceling the debt. They're changing who pays it. So if this video showed you something you hadn't seen before, do 2 quick things for me. Leave a comment with the one cost in your life that's risen the most. Your grocery bill, your rent, your insurance, because other people need to see they're not imagining it. And hit the like button so this reaches them. Then watch the video showing on your screen right now. It goes one layer deeper into protecting yourself from exactly this. America's debt crisis won't vanish. It will show up in your grocery bill, your rent, your retirement account, and the value of every dollar you saved.